Hey, what's up, everybody? Hey, Jordan, how are you doing?
Doing well, doing well. It's nice to be chatting with you today, Jason.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on the show. We've known each other for a long time, and for those that have not met you yet, who are you, and what did you used to do?
My name is Jordan Choo. I am a recovering agency owner now. I used to run a company called Kogneta. We did digital marketing for local companies that are trying to profitably and predictably grow without the BS.
Awesome. And I always refer to you as kind of patient zero. For those that were like, what are you talking about, Jason? Many years ago, how many years ago was this? Like seven that you
Oh,
came
at
to an
least.
event I had in Atlanta?
Yeah.
Is that right? And Jordan got sick toward the end, but got everyone else sick. And so the flu just started spreading throughout everyone. Like we could see, like, oh, this person's going to get it. Boom, 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 boom. And so for many years, Jordan was in our mastermind, and I called him Patient Zero. So that's the context there.
And I think I spread it as far as Australia, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, yeah, that poor member. Yeah, that poor member that came all the way from Australia took it. You took it. You, yeah, Australia is not going to let you in their country anymore. But well, congratulations on selling your agency. I'm glad you're recovering. Um, Tell us kind of how did that process start? Were you actively looking to sell or did someone reach out to you? Because there's a lot of agency owners listening that they always get that email, right? Hey, I want to buy you. And it's always a sales call. How did this come to fruition?
Yeah, so it was actually through an introduction from another agency owner that I know. And it wasn't a acquisition introduction. It was more of a, hey, this other agency I know, they're looking for, a white label partner to provide these marketing services to. They only do website design development, so they're looking to kind of scale and grow and kind of extend their lifetime value. And then as I had more and more conversations with this agency, it actually made sense for them to acquire us rather than for us to partner together on a long-term basis. And it was very organic, wasn't necessarily forced. Neither of us kind of went into it with the intention of buying or selling. It just kind of fit really well with how we were positioned, how we structure our company, our culture as well, how we approach client services. So it ended up being a really good match for a merger.
Yeah. Did they bring it up or did you bring it up?
I actually brought it up. I'm like, hey, what are your thoughts on you buying us? Half as, for me just to kind of be curious and the other half kind of being serious. And then as we continue that conversation, it felt more and more like, yeah, like let's actually go ahead and do this thing.
Yeah. Because a lot of people, I asked that because a lot of times the people that will buy you are already people you already know.
Mhm.
Right. The company that bought my first agency, we started that way. We knew them. They knew us. And then, we tried out some kind of strategic partnerships and then they were like, we want to buy you. Um, and just kind of and it has to fit your personality too, right? It's like, you should buy us one day. Ha ha ha. And it just you kind of seed it, and then they'll be like, maybe Jordan is right, maybe Jason is right, right? And then they start talking. So okay, so you kind of joked around with them, and then did they say, yeah, let's talk a little bit more? Like, how long was the process from when you kind of said that to kind of a letter of intent?
Yeah. So we were talking, what is this? Maybe. August, September-ish. And then we ended up getting kind of like a more formal letter of intent, I'd say signed around December, January.
Okay.
So there was I would say a lot of kind of going back and forth and just really understanding from a fit level how well do we mesh. Like one of my biggest concerns is not necessarily for me, but like how well is it a fit for my current client portfolio? Like how good of a fit is it for the team members who are currently in place, right? Because at the end of the day, we're professional service providers, and the team has to be happy because clients can see that. And if the team's not happy, then it's going to show with the quality of our work, with how we deliver our services, how clients are treated, retention, and all of that downstream stuff. So yeah.
How much back and forth did you go back at, do the dance with, what are they going to be offering you?
Yeah, so from an offer perspective, I had in mind a kind of, I wouldn't say a number, but a very clear multiple range of EBITDA that I had in mind. And when I spoke with my now boss, it ended up being very in line with how he was valuating us. So I'm very very thankful that there wasn't a lot of going back and forth on what that number should be. And I think part of that is also a function of I under I have an understanding that ego really can kill a deal, whether it's with an acquisition, whether it's with clients or whatever. So I really had to put myself in a state of this is a business transaction. These are the numbers, and this is what realistically I should be valued at.
Mhm.
Versus I feel like I should be worth 10x of what I'm doing.
Yes. Well, yeah, both parties need to be educated, or at least the seller needs to be educated and the buyer can be an idiot, and then you can sell it for a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
That does happen, right? Like I'm always looking for a stupid buyer. Like, oh yeah, you gonna give me a 20x on, this? All right, here, take it. But I am glad that you mentioned you got to kind of take ego out of it, right? And one of the big challenges that I had when I was selling, right? Like I associated myself as an agency owner. That was my identity versus, this is what I do. But I'm not selling myself as, I'm still going to be able to be creative and innovative and helpful and that kind of stuff. And I can find something else. I just don't know what it is. Right. And that was one of the things too, as you were going through this process and we were chatting, I went, Jordan, do you know what you're going to do next? Because if you don't do it. Because I was depressed. I didn't know what I was going to do next.
Yeah.
It took me a little while to find this, or a couple of years, honestly. So,
Well, I mean, like it makes sense, right? It's like this is such a core part of who you are and how you identify yourself that it's almost like you're losing an arm and a leg, right? Like I see it kind of very in line with like Olympic athletes, right? They train their whole life for this one event. They go do it, they get a gold, and it's like, okay, now what? Right? Like who am I after this?
yeah. Looking back from when you started, like everything has a start, a middle, and an end, right? So you've gone through that on all of this. What would you change in the start of your agency, looking back?
Ooh, oh, that's such a good question. Um, Delegation was a big one. I personally had a lot of difficulty letting go and delegating things out. Um, I would also say that um, a classic one is hire slow, fire fast. I can definitely attest to that. Um, yeah, I would say people. The people at the end of the day that you bring on your team will define how quickly or slowly that you grow. And I think I significantly misunderstood how large of a factor that is.
Yeah. Well, it all comes down to having the right foundation, right? Like, think about, we all start pretty much by accident. We knew how to do something cool, and then we're off to the races. And we knew how to, we did it all in the very beginning, right? Like,
Mm.
we signed the client, we managed the client, we grew the client, and then, the roller coaster ride. And, when I look back at the start, I wish I first came up with, what do I want
Mm.
before hiring someone?
Mhm.
Because I can hire people all day long, but if I can't give them the direction, now they're just going to drag me along, and they're going to be kind of an anchor, because they're going to be coming to me because I am the bottleneck, because no one can make a decision without me. So I always looked at it as, you know, after all my years of stress, I'm like, if I knew where I was going, I can build the right foundation. Then I could bring in the right people. That goes to what you were saying, the delegation, where I am delegating the outcome I want rather than delegating the task I tell them to, which is a big difference. That's kind of what I would look. So I think that's what we would change in the start. Is that the same in the middle too, like you think, or would you change anything in the middle?
Ooh, in the middle. In the middle. You know what? In the middle, and I feel so cliche saying this, is really treating working on your agency rather than in it.
Yeah.
Because like for me, like I love the strategy. I love like chatting with clients, like doing the work. And that's like I feel like a lot of agency owners, that's how we started, right? That's kind of our default. And we don't really focus on that growth perspective and how we need to change as agency owners from being in the weeds doing the things we love to maybe doing things that we aren't so great at, like the sales, like the marketing, like
Mhm.
the SOPs that we all know we have to do but aren't doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I look back too, I agree with that. I look at it as you're really kind of transforming yourself from an owner to a CEO.
Yeah.
And you gotta, right, like, we're already assuming we have people, and we have the right people. How do I make them better leaders? How do I make them into leaders and coach them and build those strategic relationships where only I can, as the CEO, right?
Mhm.
Like, or what are the things I need to do? Do I need to create, I mean, how many times in the mastermind when I tell people to, do a podcast? It was like a drinking game. I felt like I was like, oh, we're freaking drunk now, because Jason said do a podcast or create content, because people want to hear what your company believes. Like, you're steering the ship.
Mhm.
And so I always looked at it, that way, looking back, that's kind of where we are aligned in the middle. All right. So getting to the question, and I know it's still like, I think you sold a month ago. Is that right?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So is there anything that you would change from that process that you wish you did, to be like, I should have did this
From the actual like exit
from the
process.
from the exiting process? Yeah. You're still in the honeymoon stage too. So I get that, right? Like,
It's you know what? I would have I would have spent more time on really fleshing out an integration plan. And I think that's one thing that is not prioritized enough, is like how do we make sure everything is just like super like buttery smooth throughout the process.
yeah.
Um
The
I think
process of selling, or the process, the day one, once you're sold?
I would say it's that kind of the first 90 days after being sold. Like, what does that really look like from a step-by-step process? I don't think I would change anything in the kind of negotiation back and forth process.
Mhm.
Um, I by being able to take ego out of the equation, you know, I think one of the things I'm very happy that I did is I looked at the purchase agreement and the I'll call it kind of like employment agreement as almost like two separate entities and two
Mhm.
separate negotiation opportunities and not letting them get muddled up. Because I know, again, ego can get very, very involved, especially with that post employment engagement.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because yeah, people do skip what does that integration look like? Because I remember on day one, I was like, I sat in this new office. I'm like, what do you want me to do? Like, we didn't even have a title for me,
Wow.
right? Like, we totally even talk about that. And I was like, this was a big transaction. This was a big purchase. I'm like, and I'm just like, oh, I'll just sit here. And man, I was so bored. I started counting down the days. Uh, yeah, and my tour of duty was for 2 years, or the event that we sold again. I was just lucky that 9 months later we sold again, and I was like, I'm freaking out, right? So really understanding that and understanding why
Mm,
they're buying you, not the reason what they tell you, but
yep.
like, why do they want to buy us? What is that reason? Because that will dictate so much going forward. Because they'll be like, "Oh, they want to buy you for X," but if it's totally some Y, then you're like, "Well, then you don't need me for this. Like, why am I going to sit around and be bored?"
Hmm.
Um, what? No, you're not even in the agency space anymore. Um, like, and I asked you, in the mastermind, I was like, "What are you going to do next? Like, don't do it if you don't." So, what do you want to do now, or what do you, after this is all like your tour duty has ended?
Yeah. So after my tour duty's up, definitely taking a nice long sabbatical. Just gonna sit on a beach, soak up the sun,
That'll
relax.
last 2 weeks.
Yeah, yeah. Um, After that, it'll be something. Um, it won't be agency services. I mean, like, let's pretend, obviously let's pretend I don't have that non-compete. It wouldn't be an agency. What I've really found in, like, going back to my why and like why I started things is I really enjoy growing companies, growing businesses,
Mhm.
growing something. So I really see myself focusing on like a single brand, whether that's starting one myself or, working in house and just really growing it. Um, because, like, as much as that did kind of scratch my itch as an agency owner, you are kind of dividing your time amongst all these other companies too. So it'd
Yeah.
be nice just to kind of like throw all of my energy, all of my effort at just one thing and really, really skyrocketing it.
Awesome. Well, this has been great, Jordan. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you think would benefit listeners listening in?
Um, I think I wouldn't say questions that you didn't ask me. I would rather say I'd rather emphasize something that you mentioned in that kind of that foundational portion is really understanding your why and why you started, because that will kind of dictate how you grow your agency, right?
No.
Like, if you're starting it for a lifestyle, then you don't have to worry about a lot of things compared to if you're starting it wanting to exit, right? Like, if you want to exit, you have to make sure your books are airtight. You have to make sure you're showing consistent profitability. You're not writing off a lot of things as the owner. So really kind of keep in mind where you want to head, and that will dictate how you grow and how you approach
Yeah.
your agency.
Well, I'm so happy to have seen the growth and you to get to kind of the pinnacle part. in order to sell and be able to really kind of write your ticket to whatever you want to do next. So congratulations again on that, Jordan. And for everyone listening, if you want to really kind of make sure you're building your agency the right way, where you have an option to sell and you want to get outside guidance and be really kind of surrounded by the right agency owners, I'd love for you guys to go to agencymastery.io and reach out to us. Hit that orange button that says, yes, I want to scale, and let's set up a time to chat. This is not a sales call at all. We want to kind of guide you in the right direction, regardless if it's us or someone else we recommend. But take the action, in order to, make a difference. And, go to agencymastery.io and let's have a conversation. And Jordan, congrats again on all that success.
Thanks, Jason.
All right. Well, until next time, have a swank day. I hope you enjoyed this content. If you want more content like this, make sure you click on the link on the screen or check out your most popular podcast platform where the full episode is there. And until next time, have a swank day. What are you doing? Go check it out. Click on the link. I'll see you soon.